Sessions at Sunrise, a way to begin every morning. Most mornings, I'm up to see the sun, and I'm used to thinking and feeling in words. I wonder what will animate me today, or what will go away. I find myself in the realm of a hope dealer. I have no suit to put on, just learning to be me, not fancy, just a little clear. Am I doing all I can to preserve great leaders? Save geniuses? Am I doing all I can to bring great parents to children, great leaders to organizations? I ask myself this every morning. I ask the emerging sunrise to release me from shunning the mystery as the day unfolds, and the world does not have to be beautiful to work, but it is. So let's meet it where it is, pay close attention to things, and see possibilities. Welcome to Sessions at Sunrise. We've all had moments where we're faced with important decisions. We struggle between alternatives when there are risks on both sides. And as parents, as business leaders, as creators in our own lives, as teammates, partners, there are always consequences to the decisions that we make. And we have to think about what the basis of our decisions are. What's the place from which we make them? What are the most primary governing structures from which we make our decisions? There was a film that came out recently with a great actor, Gary Oldman, called The Darkest Hour. And it's him in his probably best acting of his career, playing Winston Churchill. And there's a number of great scenes that are in the film that connect with what this topic is. Here's a man who is faced with incredible pressure because the Germans are wanting to take over Europe during this era, in the World War II era with Hitler. And, he is full of conviction, this Churchill. He is rooted in his values. And he's taking all this heat from his campaign, from his cabinet, because they want to offer a peaceful solution. They want to work something out with the Germans. And he doesn't feel that that's the right thing to do. And one of the best scenes in the movie that connects with, I think, the essence of leadership is there's a great moment when the prince walks in to kind of lift him up because Winston has gotten so much heat that it's gotten into his enthusiasm. And his wife comes in and gives him a pep talk. And then the Prince of Britain comes in and says, "Look, I'm on your side, whatever you need." And he says, "Can I offer you some advice?" And of course, Winston says, "Sure." And he says, "Well, why don't you go to the people? Why don't you get your instructions from the people? Listen." And I've often said in my work with leaders that to really get the right intention, to set the intention, to really set a direction, we have to listen. And we have to listen out of a certain respect as servant leaders. And so Winston takes this sort of sensing journey, takes his sensing perceptions, and he takes a ride on the subway where the commoners are, where the commons are. And he's in this subway car, and it's as if the car that he's in is kind of a microcosm of the entire population. There are 30 or so people in there. And they're all astonished that the prime minister is riding on the subway car. And he turns towards them and he asks one of them for a match, and of course they respond. And he sits down and he does what the prince suggested he do, is to just be frank and candid and tell the sobering reality that he's facing. And this amazing sort of humility comes up, that he doesn't have the answers. And he's volunteering his current reality to the core group that's in the train. And he runs by them some options and ideas. And of course, they're very, very clear about what their positions are. Each individual speaks from a place of this incredible sincerity. And then there's a parody to a classic story that Winston has grown up with. And there's a little girl that's in the subway area that speaks. And you just know, without it being said, that he's listening to the future of future generations as she speaks. Because she says the last comment, and then, of course, he turns towards her. And that was like the straw that broke the camel's back of what he was really intending to serve from, what his inner place was from which he was operating and leading. This very third-person kind of ethnocentric, empathic listening that he was imbuing inspiration. He was taking inspiration from the commons. And then we begin to see this recapturing of himself, this sort of refocusing of recalibration and re-establishing a poise and stance in the presence of what he just knows he needs to do. He walks out of the train. You can see his posture and the manner in which he goes out back in to speak to Parliament to declare what his position is. And he has this great meeting with his critics on his cabinet to say, we will not comply, we will not go into negotiating, we will not have peace talks or anything. We will stand very firm, we will fight. And it's just an amazing, amazing example of the way we bring information that is not emergent yet. It has not inherited us yet, not yet embodied us yet, into ourselves. And that it's not something that we are self-sufficient in doing. We move into a social body. We move out into the world, into sort of a social field as leaders. And we listen to different sectors and sides of the system with diversity, and we honor differences. Because that's what the quality of the open heart in its true character is about, is this quality of open heart. There's one more scene in a film recently with Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks called The Post that I thought also was very much about this. It's very much the movie is about the Meryl Streep character who is struggling between some great tension to resolve the fear of the government, because the government has had a cover-up and the news organization is inclined to report on it because they have documentation to suggest that the government has withheld or has done some foul play. And so in reaction to those threats, of course, the government puts themselves into an attack pattern with the newspaper. And throughout the film, her arrival, her learning to really lead is brought through this incident of initiation of, do I stay true to the freedom of the press and my conviction to operate that way based on the roots of the organization and its makings, of what originally brought it into reality and what consistently, almost like in an invisible way, was composing her decisions, but now bringing it out more visible, she could consciously choose. And of course, the film resolves in the favor of reporting on the situation, and I don't want to spoil it, but it's just a great example of when we're oscillating in decisions and how we come to make higher choices, and that sometimes we have to give up on the good opportunity or good situations that on the short term will cause us comfort to submit to the great opportunity of our convictions and our true voice. And this takes so much courage. Both films are films of courage and commitment, where out of that courage and commitment we arrive in a certain capability, and then from there a confidence, a certain trust. And they're just great examples of moments of truth when leaders are faced, and we are all faced in our lives with alternatives. And that when we look deep within us, it involves a process of looking at what's surrounding us, the context, that we have to go out into the environment, go out into the space, and really hold a listening to what stands in need of us. And therefore, we wield, we compose, we originate our most sacred projects from this quality of listening. And if you're going through some important incidents like this, some important moments in your life where you come to a fork in the road or you have alternatives, I suggest that you look at that process of kind of letting go of having to know it all and going out into the world, into the space, the universe, and listening. Listening from the social field, listening from what is needed, showing up, being present. There's a warriorship to this. So, first of all, see the films. They're great films. And second is, I wish you the very best of decision making, and that you don't compromise. You don't invest your life spirit in a compromise, but that you organize your decisions around what really does matter to you, and that you have a process for composing what does matter to you, and that anything that you do to set an intention can always include what kind of impact or difference that it would make for others long term. And there will be trade-offs. If you have a little patience with the trade-off and you take the higher choice, that will probably make the difference. Thank you.